Hello students, welcome to this online course of Strength of Materials. So in the previous lecture we have seen the numericals about the temperature stresses and we have tried to solve some indeterminate problems. Now today we are going to see some mechanical properties of the material which are going to be helpful in our further analysis of the mechanics of these materials. So let us start with first is elasticity. So these all things, some of the things you might have learned, some may be new for you. So what is elasticity? When a body is subjected to external force. So what is going to happen if this is your body and load is applied? So it will try to come to here. But for like some of the materials you might have observed that if you are removing this load, then what is going to happen? It will again come to its original shape. If this is the property of material, if a material is showing such type of property, then the material is termed as elastic material and the property itself is called the elasticity. Okay, but what is the condition here? The load or the stress which we are applying, it should be well within the elastic limits of the material. So how we are going to determine this elastic limit, that we will see later in this lecture. So I hope this elasticity is clear. It is a property by virtue of which if a loaded material, if in a loaded material the load is removed, then it will regain its original shape. Many metals exhibit this property up to a certain value of stress known as elastic limit of the material, beyond which permanent deformation remains in the body. So if you will cross the elastic limit, what is going to happen? The deformations which are being happening, they will remain intact with the body, so it will not regain its original shape. The plastic deformation means the permanent deformations. Now many times we have seen homogeneous and isotropic. So a material is said to be homogeneous if it exhibit the same elastic properties at all points. So if a material is said to be homogeneous, so let us say it is some 3D body. Okay, so in 3D there are like infinite points, whatever points we are choosing. If a material is said to be have the Young's modulus E, Poisson's ratio mu, okay, any value which physical parameter is there, and if you are checking at any point in the material, then what this material is said to have? It has the homogeneous properties. The material is homogeneous, and if it is said to be isotropic if it exhibit the same properties in all direction at a point. Okay, so at a point, if this is a point you have chosen, in any direction you go, it will show you the same E and same mu. Then the material will be termed as isotropic. So these things you might have studied initially also. So just to recap, I have put it here. Now what is plasticity? Plasticity may be new term for you. So plasticity is the property because of which a material subjected to forces undergoes deformations which do not disappear. As I have told you, if you will exceed the stresses beyond elastic limit, the material will have a plastic or permanent deformation. So this type of property is termed as plasticity. Many materials become plastic at large value of stress or at higher temperatures. Okay, so let us move to our next property, ductility. These things you have studied in your physics classes. Just to have some overview of these things, I am putting it here. So ductility is the property because of which it is possible to draw thin wires of a metal. Ductile material can undergo large plastic deformation before breaking. So you might have seen the copper wire, aluminum wire. So wires are made up of what? They are made up of metals. Why? Because due to the property which is known as ductility, it is very easy to convert the metal into wires. Okay, so the wire has been produced or made due to ductility of that particular metal. So copper is there, steel you might have seen the steel bars which you are using, that is also made up from using the property of ductility. Ductile material must have high degree of plasticity and strength, so what is the wire? If initially the metal is having different shape, so what we are pulling it, okay, by pulling action or by tensile stresses, it will convert gradually to a wire. So after becoming wire, it is not going to regain its original shape. That means it is a plastic deformation. So to have a ductility, the material should have the plasticity. It is must. That is because of ductility or because of plasticity only, it can have a large permanent deformations. Okay, else it will fail due to rupture or it will get fracture. And brittleness is the tendency of a material to shatter on receiving a shock. If a material is brittle and if you are putting a load or immediate load, what is going to happen? It will fail immediately. So it will not give you any warning. You are pulling and suddenly it will break down. Okay, or if you are pressing it, it will burst. So brittle material does not give any particular immediate or prior warning before failure. Okay, so these are not desirable in construction or any, like if you have made a bridge and it is made up of a brittle material, what is going to happen? People are there and let us suppose it is up to failure, suddenly it will fail and people will die. So brittleness is not a desirable property. This happened due to lack of ductility. So it is opposite of ductility. Ductility is it can have large deformations, but the brittle material cannot have large deformation, it will immediately fail. So you can the rubber is a case of brittle material. Rubber is not a ductile material. Even it can have large, like just if you are pulling a rubber, you can pull it at a very high deformations, but the moment you remove the load, it will come back to its original shape. So rubber is elastic, but it is not ductile, because the moment you will cross the limit, it will break. You can try, take a rubber and it will not have the permanent deformation. It can only have large deformation, but up to a elastic limit. So rubber is an example of brittle material. And ductility and brittleness is a relative parameters. Okay, so if some material A is there and some material B is there, so maybe A is a ductile material, but relative to B, it can be termed as brittle material, because A can have very less permanent deformation value. So these terms are relative. Okay, at a very lower temperature, a ductile material can behave as a brittle material, and at very higher temperatures, a brittle material can behave as a ductile material. So these parameters depends on many conditions, but in general, the properties I have tried to shown. Now what is malleability? Malleability is nothing but the material can be pressed into thin plates. So it is the property of material which allow to expand in the direction without rupture. A malleable material has to be highly plastic, though it may not possess high temperature. This property is of great use in processes such as forging and hot rolling. So if workshop you have done, you might have know these processes, the forging process, the hot rolling. So if a plate is there, the steel plates are there, how we are going to have them? So what we are going to do, let us see, this is your steel, so we will press it, so finally it will become thin. Okay, so this we can use as a plate. So this is possible because of the property known as malleability. Now what is toughness? Toughness is a property which enables a material to absorb large amount of energy by undergoing large plastic deformations, particularly due to shock loading. So if spring is some shock absorber is there, so what we are going to use, we generally use a highly viscous fluid, or springs in general we use to absorb the shock. So That means that material is having a high toughness. Okay, it is a capacity of material to absorb energy without fracture. It is represented by the area under the stress strain curve up to failure point. So in the next slide we are going to see the stress strain curve. Then there also I will tell you the toughness. So if stress strain curve is like this and this is the failure point, so this area is your toughness. Okay, and if this is your elastic, if it is elastic then it will be straight line. So this area will become your resilience. Clear? So the area under stress strain curve up to elastic limit is known as resilience, and up to failure it is termed as toughness. Resilience is the ability of the material to recover its shape and size after deformation. That means it is valid up to elastic limit. It is represented by the area under the stress strain curve up to elastic limit. Hardness is nothing but the resistance of a material to indentation, scratching, cutting, or wear by abrasion. If you are scratching some metal and you are not easily able to scratch it, then it is having a higher hardness value. Fatigue is a phenomenon of material failing under very little stress due to repeated cycle of loading. So fatigue is nothing but the repeated loading is there. So you can say if cyclic loading is there, okay, if some material is, if let us say this is a steel wire, okay, you might have done this in your childhood. So it is having E210 GPa. It is a very high value, but what we are going to do, if its diameter is very less, very thin, so what we will do, we will apply these type of stresses. So first we will turn it down like this, and in the second case we will turn. Now we are going to apply opposite load. Okay, so by repeating this type of phenomena, you will see here it will get fail, it will break from here. So even the load is very less, but due to repeated loading, what we have done, we have failed the material. So this property is known as repeated loading of opposite nature, is termed as fatigue. A fatigue failure is generally similar to brittle failure. This is important in case of component is likely to subjected to a cyclic or reversal loading, as in machine foundation or member subjected to repeated dynamic loads. So if repeated loading is there, we have to be very careful for fatigue failure. Material can fail due to repeated loading of opposite nature. What is creep? Creep is a property by which a material undergoes deformation at constant stress over a period of time. A body undergoes elastic deformation immediately on the application of the load. The stress remaining constant, it is found that deformation increases over a period of time due to creep. Creep you have seen in your real life also. So if you have purchased your belt, the belt which you are wearing generally, so if it is having length say 1 meter, but what you are doing every day, you are pulling it, okay, pulling it, so the load is generally constant. So some after few years, because the time is more here in creep, you will see or you might have feel that the length of the belt has increased. Okay, or you have to do nothing, just put a belt or any material, elastic material, and hang it. Due to weight, if it is hanging, due to weight it will go and it will increase, some length will increase due to this constant loading. So this is the creep. Constant stress is there and material is getting deformed under constant loading over a large period of time. Now let us see the stress strain diagram. This diagram is for steel, okay, and it is not to scale. The diagram is how we are going to do that. We are having a specimen. We are having a specimen here. So this is our length L. This we are going to put in UTM, and tensile load is applied from ends. Okay, so the length is known, the change in deformation can be calculated, and this value is epsilon. Load is there, so P by area will be your stress. So if we are taking the average area, then this will termed as the nominal stress. If we are going to take, because when we are going to pull it, the area of cross section is going to change and it will reduce, so area is going to change constantly. Now if you are going to take the original strain or the original area, which is the instantaneous strain, then it will be termed as the engineer's nominal strain, and if you are taking the average length and average area, then it will be told as engineer's strength or simply strain. Okay, so this dotted line is the graph according to the original or instantaneous strain and area. Clear? And if you are taking the average value, then you will get the solid portion. Now let us see how this diagram is being drawn. The diagram begins with a straight line from origin. Okay, so initially it is straight, this portion is straight, linear region till OA. Okay, which means that relationship between stress, this is what, stress is proportional to strain, or stress is equal to E times epsilon. This holds where? Up to, this is Hooke's law, and Hooke's law is valid up to elastic limit, proportional limit only. So this is valid up to linear region only, that is till the line OA. Clear? Which means the relationship between stress and strain is linear, and linear, that means proportional only. Beyond point A, the proportionality between stress and strain is no longer exist. Hence the stress at A is called as proportional limit. So the point OA corresponding to A, the stress is known as proportional limit. The slope of the straight line from O to A is called as modulus of elasticity or Young's modulus. You know this thing very well. With an increase in stress beyond the proportional limit, now what we are going to do, we will continuously increase the load. Okay, so the rate is 6 megapascal to 60 megapascal per minute. So by this rate, we are going to increase for this stress strain curve for tensile loading, the stress rate is 6 megapascal or 6 to 60 megapascal per minute. This is the range, so it can be any value between 6 to 60 megapascal. So this is, the stress is going to be increased continuously. So after O till point B, at point B, if we are going to remove the load, it will come back to its original shape. Okay, it will follow the same path. But if we have crossed the point B, that means it has reached to elastic. If we are stopping the test here, what is going to happen? It will follow this path. Okay, this O is no longer its origin, it will become O dash. Clear? So that means this is the permanent strain, plastic strain or permanent strain. If we are going to again put the load, then it will start from here. So this is loading unloading curve. So up to point B, it is elastic in nature. If you are removing the load, it will regain its shape, but once you have crossed point B, it will not be able to regain its original shape, and it will have some residual strain or plastic strain or permanent strain, due to which the permanent deformation will cause in the material. With an increase in stress beyond the proportional limit, the strain begins to increase more rapidly for each increment in the stress. Now you can see here also, here almost in this part BC, the stress is almost constant, but you can see the strain is becoming very, very high as compared to the strain in portion O to OB. The strain in BC is very, very high. So if it is 1, it can have value 12 to 15 times. If you will plot this graph, it is very tough to plot. That's why this is not to scale. Okay, so the plastic deformation is very, very high as compared to the elastic strain or the proportional strain. Consequently, the stress strain curve has a smaller and smaller slope until a point B. The curve becomes horizontal. Beginning at this point, considerable elongation of the test specimen occur with no noticeable increase in tensile force. So this is all practical. This we are not made up. This we have done a test, we have plotted the results, and this we have obtained. Now this phenomena is known as yielding of the material. So at point B there are two stresses. One is lower yield point, another is upper yield point. But in general we will tell it, we will denote it by yield stress only. For the because the point B is transient, so we will assume, or we will take the lower yield point as our yield stress. Clear? So this phenomena is known as yielding of the material, and point B is called as yield point. Yield point is there, and the corresponding stress is yield stress of the steel. Now in the region BC, now we have come in this region. Okay, here this region we are talking about. So in the region BC, the material becomes perfectly plastic. That means perfectly plastic means the elongation will be very high, with no or very little effort or very little stress, which means that it deforms without an increase in applied load, or very little load is applied. The elongation of a mild steel specimen is perfectly plastic, and is typically 10 to 15 times the elongation that occurs in linear region. Okay. After undergoing the large strain that occurs during yielding in region BC, the steel begins to strain harden. Now what is going to happen? After considerable strain, here you can see now the strength is increasing. Okay, the stress is increasing. This is nothing but the capacity only, it can bear more stress. So this phenomenon is termed as strain hardening. The material will become more harden, or it can take more load, or strength has been increased. During strain hardening, the material undergoes in its crystalline structure, resulting in increased resistance of the material to further deformation. Some crystalline, the structure is changed at very microscopic level, and due to which the material is able to take more stress. Now elongation of the test specimen in this region requires an increase in the tensile load, and therefore the stress strain curve has positive slope from C to D. Now the load eventually reaches its maximum value, and the corresponding stress is called as ultimate stress. So beyond this point D, there is no increase in stress. It is the maximum possible value for this material. After this, what is going to happen? So it is termed as ultimate. The stress corresponding to maximum or the highest point is termed as ultimate stress. Further, stretching of the bar is actually accompanied by a reduction in load, and fracture finally occurs at point T. Now if the load is increasing but the stress is decreased, that the material is not able to take much more stress than point D, and it will reduce gradually. Now the slope is negative in this region, and finally at point E it will fail, and that is termed as fracture point. The yield stress and ultimate stress of the material are also known as yield strength and ultimate strength respectively. Now strength, what is strength? This is strength of materials. Okay, so what is actually strength? It is a general term that refers to the capacity of a structure to resist load. Okay, so whatever calculation, whatever stress we are putting, or whatever load we have calculated, that is the maximum value for which that particular component or particular body is safe. So that is indirectly we are saying what? This is the safe load, or this is the strength. If you are putting more load, then the material is going to fail. That means it is beyond its strength. Now for instance, the yield strength of a beam is the magnitude of the load required to cause yielding in the beam, and the ultimate strength of a truss is the maximum load it can support. So these are the strength of particular component. However, when conducting a tension test of a particular material, we define load carrying capacity by the stresses in the specimen rather than by the loads acting on the specimen. As a result, the strength of material is usually stated as a stress. So that is why if stress is there, we can easily convert it into load by multiplying the area over which the stress is acting. So generally we used to express the strength in terms of stress. When a test specimen is stretched, lateral contraction occurs as previously mentioned. Due to Poisson's ratio is there, so negatively it will contract. the resulting decrease in cross section area is too small to have a noticeable effect on the calculated values of stresses up to about point B, but beyond that the reduction in area begin alter the shape of the curve. So you can see up to point C, the both the diagrams, the dotted line and the solid line, both are same. Why? Because the change in area is not very much significant, but after point C the area become significant, the change has become significant. That is why you will get a different curve. Okay, but beyond the point B, the reduction area begin to alter the shape of the curve. In the vicinity of the ultimate stress, the reduction in area of the bar becomes clearly visible and a pronounced necking of the bar has occurred. So that means the necking means what? We have this bar. Okay, so what has happened? Due to elongation, this cross section has become very thin. So this is termed as necking because its shape is just like neck. Our body is there up above chest, suddenly the neck has very small diameter. That is why this is termed as necking. Clear? So if the actual cross sectional area at the narrow part of the neck is used to calculate the stress, the true stress strain curve is termed as by the dashed line. The presence of clearly defined yield point followed by large plastic strain is an important characteristic of structural steel that is sometimes utilized in practical design. So this thing is desirable because this is the region BC is defining the plasticity or the ductility of a material, and if a material is having this range, then only it will be termed as ductile material. That's why it is a desirable property, and it will be used by us or the engineers to design the steel components or steel structures. Metals such as structural steel that undergoes large permanent strains before failure are classified as ductile. As this I have already told. A desirable feature of ductile material is that visible distortion occurs if the load becomes too large, thus providing an opportunity to take remedial action before an actual fracture occurs. Also, materials exhibit ductile behavior are capable of absorbing large amount of strain energy prior to the fracture. So this I have already told that if a material is ductile, it will, so this up to elastic point, up to this area is resilience, as I have told you, and this whole area is your toughness. Okay, so in this manner we have completed our first unit. From the tomorrow or from next lecture we are going to start the stress transformation. In that we are going to see the various orientation, if the stress is available, how we are going to take the resultant and how we are going to design the structure. So this is all for today. Thank you.